Hey YouTube, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the concept from this movie. Again, but this time in more detail. Before we start this video, I'm using a different mic because the other two mics that I use, one is a headset, the other one is an actual mic, are unable to connect to my laptop, which I mostly do my work on. For this video, I'll be using my mom's headset. So, Mom, if you're watching this, sorry for using your headset, but thank you for letting me use it. Anyways, with that info out of the way, I'll be going into an in-detail look about the concept from this movie. The first few concept that we're going to start with is from a man by the name of Byron Howard. Now, Byron Howard is a good concept artist. He worked with the concept for Encanto and Tangled, which as a whole are two good movies that I really like. Now, to distinguish the other concept from Byron Howard's concept, you have to look at the two main characters' heads. Their heads look most likely a gumdrop, of course. Nick's head looks more like a wide gumdrop, while Judy's looks more like a normal gumdrop. The beginning of production of this movie, they started off the rabbit as the main character, and the main character's name was Jack Savage. The movie he was going to start in was not obviously going to be called that movie. It was going to be called Savage. Savage Seas and Savage City. They were going to make Savage a James Bond type style film, with Nick Wilde and Jack Savage as James Bond, with many other characters that's resembling other characters from the James Bond series. Now, although the ideas for these concepts were quite interesting, the idea of the project that they were working on was about the basis of bias. And with all these ideas, it wasn't going to fit in well. So, in order for them to talk about the basis of bias, they would have to dumb down everything that they had worked on for the concept. With that idea in mind, they unfortunately had to get rid of Jack Savage and many of the other characters that looked like James Bond villains or allies. But there was a few concepts that still made it through the script. Mostly Nick Wilde, and of course, a rabbit character. But we will not forget about the city idea, of course. After scrapping many of the old concepts, they had started working on new concept for this new idea of the script. But with this new script, they were going to have to find a new protagonist, and this new protagonist was going to be Nick Wilde. Now, Nick Wilde had the most interesting changes throughout the concept. He started off as a James Bond type style character to a cunning thief in the second phase of the script. Now, the second phase of the concept was an interesting part, since it had more details to it that had been released to the public, plus with a lot more information and the idea of how the story was going to go. Now, I want to say a big thanks to many of these channels that had information and explanation about the story, but the biggest thanks will go to this channel, Will Fan of Many. Now, Will Fan of Many had created a very good in-depth look of the story, with mostly some of his interpretation with it. If you want to read the entire detail of the entire script that he created, I highly recommend to go to the video that I left down in the description. But for now, I'm going to explain it in a 1-minute format. Nick is in a museum as a child. Years has passed and he became a con artist in the city. Nick and his friends go to a burger joint and talk about the politics of the city. Every day after he leaves the grocery, he gets run over by the gerbil jerks on his tail. Nick always wakes up inside a run-down basement, mostly owned by another neighbor of his. One day after leaving the groceries, he had enough with the gerbil jerks, so he went into a fuss and unfortunately broke his neck in the situation. After the fuss, Nick goes to a free clinic. During his checkup, he has to remove his collar in order to continue the checkup. After the doctor removed his collar, he started daydreaming about how it would be like without the collar. After the doctor put back his collar, Nick had a great idea to create a theme park for Preds. After going through many banks, he went up to Kozlov, who had enough money to give him, but unfortunately he has to pay it back. After the opening of the theme park, Nick had enough money to give back to Kozlov. After the sudden increase of Preds in one specific location, Judy was sent to investigate that location. After talking with Nick and thoroughly investigating the location, she accidentally found the secret entrance and saw everything about the theme park. This caused Judy to become very scared, causing her to call backup. Before backup comes in, a weird wolf came into Nick's room and tranquilized him, causing him to go savage. Nick is arrested due to all the shady acts that he did during the theme park time, and unfortunately with all that, he is arrested and closed down the theme park. While Nick is inside prison, he finds a way out, causing him to get chased inside the police station, with Judy behind his back. Nick escapes the police and goes to Kozlov for help, but before he goes to Kozlov, he's caught by Judy, which, with that, he is also cuffed to Judy. Nick hides the unconscious Judy inside a hat. After entering Kozlov Palace and talking with Kozlov, unfortunately, Judy wakes up and tries to arrest Kozlov. Unfortunately, the arrest doesn't go so well, and this causes Kozlov to be distrustful to Nick. Unfortunately, Nick is sent into a freezer to die, with Judy, of course. Nick escapes the chains and unfortunately is still cuffed to Judy. While escaping, they are distracted by a tame party, which celebrates a predator having a tame collar set to their necks. After escaping Kozlov, they go to the Rainforest District in order to get more information from an employee by the name of Munchies that works with Kozlov. After reaching the destination, they talked with the employee, but unfortunately with their conversation, the employee is tranquilized and becomes savage. While escaping, Nick unfortunately broke his back severely. After hitting an edge, they unfortunately have to fall down, causing Nick to become unconscious. After waking up, he noticed that he's located in Bunny Burrows with Judy's family. After Nick is getting all his strength back, they finally continue the investigation and head to Sahara Square. After almost evading all security inside Sahara Square, they finally reach their destination, which is the Palm Tree Hotel. After reaching their specific room, they finally did a thorough investigation of the room and gained a lot of evidence to a person by the name of Wooly. While they're investigating, they're intercepted by a task force called Tusk, which is unfortunately trying to capture Nick and Judy. After trying to avoid Tusk, they finally capture Wooly and finish the case. But is it? After the investigation, Nick and Judy split off and we learn about their backstories. Nick wanted to open up a shop with his dad to create suits for predators, while Judy pushed herself to become a police officer of the city. After learning about their backstories, we finally see them come together and look more into the investigation that they thought they closed. After finally reaching their last location, which is the Animalia Stadium, where Gazelle is going to be singing, they are finally able to find the actual culprit. After chasing their culprit, they have to fight 4 savage tigers that was infected by the culprit. Fortunately, Nick used a device that makes him savage manually and make him normal manually again. After the battle with the tigers, Judy turns on the device, causing Nick to become normal and finally closing the case. After the case has already been closed, Preds are able to take off the collars freely. With the case closed and Preds being free, this gives a good happy ending for this movie. Whew, that was a long story to say, and it wasn't even a minute. My apologies, though. But still, the people that was working on this movie had created an interesting script that Will, a fan of many, had put together and made it more clear to read. Although Will, a fan of many, had created this script, it's not really the true script. It's only an interpretation of the script that the people were trying to create for that movie. But still, it's the only way we're ever going to read the concept script that they had first thought of for the second phase. But during production for this movie, they had to do a lot of rescripts, and unfortunately with this rescript, they had to remove Nick Wilde as the main character and replace him with Judy Hopps. With all that said, we have come to the third and final phase of concept and script writing. The third phase of the script and concept was basically the entirety of the released movie, of course, and with full-fledged out concept that was actually officially approved by Disney. Now, with all the phases concept in mind, it's an interesting way that the production of a movie goes from concept that is not really the entire script that is released for the movie to the actual script of the movie. So yeah, this is basically an in-detail look about the concept and script that was produced for this movie, and I will have to say, it was really fun making this video. But before I go, I'm still working on my semi-project. With Will, a fan of many, script of that movie, it has made it more easy for me to have a basis of the movie. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a few edits to it to make it more interesting and more cool. If you want to be updated about the development of this semi-project, you can also follow my socials. I have a Pinterest and an Instagram down in the description below. If you guys want to see more videos, you can go to my channel, of course. But with all that said, thank you guys for watching. See ya.